You carry all the ingredients to turn your life into a nightmare. Don't mix them. You have all the genius to build a swing in your backyard for God. That sounds like a hell of a lot more fun. Let's start laughing and drawing blueprints, gathering our talented friends. I will help you with my divine lyre and drum. Hafiz will sing 1,000 words you can take into your hands like golden saws and silver hammers, polished teakwood, strong silk rope. You carry all the ingredients to turn your existence into joy. Mix them. Mix them. I mean, if ever I've a poem that carries everything I'm trying to tell you, you carry all the ingredients. And what you are working on is why you would sabotage those ingredients. Why you would sabotage. So in this first level, it's so important to look at what you cannot see in yourself, but everyone else can. This first level of your life is where you lose so much of your power. So in this level, what causes you to go to war with other people? Identify 5 reasons you activate and go to war with other people. 5 reasons you go to war with other people. You don't have to tell me. Put it down. But in answering the question, the point is that you want to identify why you would lose power over something and justify it. And you have to ask yourself in the end, was this worth my power? Was this worth my power? Was this worth my power? You have to realize, and when I talk about illusion, 90% of the nonsense you engage in, 90%, someone else would say, I don't know what you're talking about. 90%, someone else would say, when you would say, I just want to know why they did that, why they said that. What are you talking about? You want to go humiliate them because you think that someone actually hurt you deliberately. When 90% of the time, that person would say to you, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? It's another instance where you decided to take something personally that someone did, and you created a narrative around an action that had nothing to do with you, like the time I was going to the bathroom. She created an entire narrative and wrote me a 7-page letter about it. It had nothing to do. My God. I had a female accident. But for her, it was all about her. And that is classic to what we do and the amount of power she lost. She had to write a letter, and then she was provoked that I didn't answer that letter, and she showed up at another workshop. Yeah, not kidding. So not kidding you. Yes. Honest to God. And I was like, are you serious? Are you serious? So what I'm saying here is this is about you identifying your hot buttons here, and how you think you're the center of the universe, and that you have a right to lose your temper because someone used a certain word, because someone's tone of voice was a certain way. And how you speak to yourself and say you're so special that you get to lose your temper when someone does this. Are you kidding me? Really? Really? You're going to die someday and no one's going to care. The world's going to go on, but you were so special. Snap out of it. Knock it off. Now, write down where you think you're the center of the universe and where you think you have the right to lose your temper, because this is where you lose your power. And I will say something. There are justifiable reasons to absolutely turn your guns on a target. Make no mistake. Evil is real. Evil is real. Bombing children. Evil is real. There are all kinds of issues that are absolutely the issues worth standing up for. Inequality is real. Anything that is a social injustice. But if you don't, you have to learn how to battle an injustice without creating injustice.
Say that again, that was profound.
You have to learn how to battle injustice without creating injustice. You have to learn how to withdraw from the illusion and use the power of evolution.
Oh my God, you're getting thicker and thicker. That's amazing.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, just get to work.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm not paying her to do this. Okay. I mean, I remember getting so angry at George Bush, I threw a cake across the room. And that's nothing compared to what I can do now. That's what, huh? What? Yeah, right, right. Now I think, where are you, George? Woo!
We're supposed to be Miss Me Yet?
Yeah, right. Miss me yet, right, yeah. Oh, Lord, how funny. And finally with this. What is your definition of powerless in hell? What's your definition of powerless in hell? Your powerlessness and being in hell. But what, for you, what would that be? Homeless? Voiceless? For me, it is the loss of freedom. The loss of freedom. I cannot comprehend life without freedom. I cannot comprehend life without freedom. I cannot. It is not. I cannot comprehend life without freedom. That's why I never married. I cannot. It is impossible for me to think of asking someone permission to make a move. Anything. It is. I must have been a prisoner, because the idea of saying, would you mind if, could I actually gag. I actually feel like there's a chain around my neck. I was engaged 4 times, and every time I thought, I can't do this. I can't do this. I won't be free. I won't be free. I won't be free. I won't be free. And I had panic attacks. The only time I ever had a panic attack. The only time. I cannot compromise. I cannot ever have my freedom tampered with, where I have to go through another person to wake up and think, what do I do today? First I have to check. No, I must never check with someone. I must check only with my soul. It's nuts. I'm wired. I'm wired like a crazy person. I cannot let anything interfere with God talking to me. Nothing. Nothing interferes. Nothing. Cannot have it. I will have a panic attack. I will. So you have to look. I could deal with poverty. I could deal with being homeless. I could deal with anything because I know my resources are so incredible. But I cannot deal with not being free. Yeah, I cannot. Yeah. Okay. Because without free, I can't hear God. So you have to know where your panic, where you have to know yourself that well. What do you have faith in? What do you believe in? In this first, on the ground, here where you stand, I hear the doubt in people. I doubt this could happen. I doubt that could happen. I feel the way you've structured your world. The way you think this can happen and that can't happen. You know, there's the way you think, no, I hear people in hospitals, this can never be healed. This could never be healed. This depression could never be healed. These things could never change. And I think, how are you wired? That you have wired your world so small. That you've wired your world so small. That you think something can't be changed in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye. This is your first chakra. The size of your world. The first chakra. This is where you regulate, and this is important to hear, the speed of events. The speed at which your life will change. So this is where you calibrate speed. How fast do you want things to change and move? How fast? This is a really important. I went to Sai Baba's ashram too. All right. Jessica's a Sai Baba. Are you okay? Is it okay if I say that? Sai Baba. And years and years ago, when I was at Finhorn, I'm going to share with you events that other people would say could not happen. But I don't have a could not happen button in me. So I was at Finhorn, which is in northern Scotland, a community I'm very close to. And one night, and this is where I was dealing with health issues. Whether or not I had Crohn's, possibly leukemia, possibly this or that. Different things I had to find out. And I went to bed one night, and nobody knew but my friends that I was at Finhorn. I was not there to teach. And I had just arrived. All of these are important factors. I go to sleep, and as I'm drifting off to sleep, I am getting impressions of India. I have about as much interest in India, as getting an enema. and I'm like, and I'm trying to go into prayer, and I keep saying India, and I see this person, Baba. And I have an intimate inner life, and I said, Jesus, I don't know what's happening here, so I don't know what's happening. And I said, Baba, I don't even know you. I have no idea. What? The next day, I got a piece of mail delivered to me at Finhorn, Scotland, from Denmark. that had been delivered a week before. Nobody knew I was coming. And it was a small tube that, you know what a 35 millimeter roll of film comes in? It was that size, full of vibhuti. Vibhuti, holy ash, which is like holy water for them. Okay. So I thought, oh my. And this begins my Sai Baba. I come home and I said, and of course, my mother at one point said, can't you write Sai Baba and ask him? And I said, I don't have an address for Sai Baba. I go downstairs in my office and my what do you call this thing? Fax machine goes ding, 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 poof, and the address comes out. Promise you before God. I promise you before God. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. Okay, all right. Then I get I'm waiting for a blood test. I'm waiting to find out if I have something in. So I said, all right, okay. Listen, I'm going to come to India. And I said, I will come either to say thank you, or I will come to ask for your help. But either way, I am coming. And I get this book in the mail that day. And it is to ask me to read it, and it's ask for an endorsement. And it's a book on Sai Baba. And I thought, you're asking me to endorse you. And I said, okay, I'm coming to India. Now my medical test, the results of my medical test, were supposed to take a week. And I said, either way, whatever I need to face, you're going to be there, because obviously I am surrounded by you, by Jesus, by the saints. So I'm going, whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, I better line up some help here because this is looking not good, but whatever. And as soon as I said, I will endorse you, I'm coming, my doctor calls and says, negative across the board. Unfrigging believable. But I said, okay, I'm coming to India. And I go to India. I kept my promise. I said, book me, I'm coming. Whenever you promise heaven, you act on it whenever heaven promises you. I've never not done exactly what heaven told me or what I've told heaven. Now this is very first bottom. How you organize your world and how you follow your guidance. I've never said, how am I supposed to do this and what is the result and I need to be rewarded and da-da-da-da. That's garbage. I've never said I should have special treatment because I hear you. You never think yourself as special. All you think of is whatever you need, whatever you want, ask, I am your instrument. And the other thing is, all things are possible with you. So I've often said in the midst of something, you better work this out. Because this is your mess, not mine. Yeah, you know. but get me out of this. And here's another great prayer. Take the night shift, I'm going to bed. Okay? But this in your first, and how you see your life, you can look at your life and say, I don't see how this problem will ever work out. Because you're looking through your first window. And all you see is problems. All God sees is solutions. You must look through the lens of, this is nothing, versus this is so much. Depression, this is nothing. I could wake up totally fine in the morning, and that's what I'm praying for. Get me out of this, Mike. Get me out of this. I've had enough of this. I need grace and a higher altitude. Reboot my soul. Get me out of here. So you need to look at where you've anchored yourself in beliefs or attitudes that are draining you. And that is this center. What beliefs and attitudes do you have that are actually draining you? That age is a problem, aging is a problem. How often do I hear that? That you might be alone, that you have a fear of growing old, whatever it is, this is where those beliefs are, and they drain you. That you won't have enough money, this is where those beliefs are. And I'm asking you to put those down so you recognize, I'm hemorrhaging. I am hemorrhaging. And if you're hemorrhaging, how that works is that when you pray for guidance, and guidance comes in, and it can be the most outrageous guidance, you won't listen to it. You won't listen to outrageous, miraculous, spontaneous, ridiculous guidance because you want the guidance to sound like something a human being with a bank account will give you. You won't recognize angelic madness. You won't recognize when an angel's talking to you because you're going to be looking for heavy human direction instead of angelic guidance. Please write down how you're losing your power. And I'm going to partner you up so you can share and so you could say to someone, can you believe I believe this? But I do. What, honey? What's wrong?
Keeps rubbing on your skin there. Okay, that's your better.
Okay. I'm going to give you 2 more minutes, and then you're going to find someone, three people. Do you want to be in a group of 3 or 2? I mean, 3 or 4? 3 people. And if it's possible, don't you even consider. I need you to be with 3 people that you really have not had a chance to chat with. So no mother-daughter. I know you know each other. Okay. So if you could please be with people you have yet to chat to. Is that, how are you? Okay, I'm going to ask you to please find 3 people, partner up. It's a great way to get to know people you don't know. How do you use your anger and your wounds in your life? And that you have a right to that anger and your wounds. How do you have a right to anger and wounds? And I'm going to hit a pause button. How many of you maintain any level of that? 2 people, 3, 4, 5. 6. All right. You don't? Yes, you do. Good. Thank you. Say, children, cherubs. This is really important. If any of you have these threads, that you have a right to your anger and your wounds. This is probably a major core of this part. And you will stop your life, and you will punish people in your life who have nothing to do with your wounds because you've been wounded, because you have to show them how wounded you are. And you have to tell that ridiculous story of your wounds again and again and again and again and again, because by God, they need to know it. Now, personally, I find I'm going to do everybody a favor and tell you everybody's bored with your wounds. They're sick of it, and you need to know that. But what's true is some people have wounds that are so ghastly, it's unbelievable. They're just ghastly. But no matter how many times you tell the story, it won't change that. It will not change that. But you have to change the power those wounds have over you. Now that's your choice. And it's your choice to stop wounding others as a way of saying, see how hurt I am. Because hurting others makes you no different than the people who hurt you. It makes you a perpetrator. It makes you a wounder. It makes you just as bad as the people who hurt you. I witnessed something so horrific, and it imprinted me. It imprinted me. I went to a workshop with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. It's where I met her. I went to expose her. Whoa. I went to expose her, yes I did. I went as a reporter to expose her. I was hired to do that. And because at the time, there was a story that had run in the Chicago Tribune, Dr. Kubler-Ross proves life after life. And for which she almost resigned from the University of Chicago. The story that ran was that she had brought a 20 or 21-year-old person with leukemia who was dying. Remember, she was in hospice care. Into her classroom. This young girl was dying. And she said, ask her questions. And it really was frightening and intimidating to these medical students who are in the business of healing. So it made them too uncomfortable to deal with death. Elizabeth came back and decided she was going to resign. There was a knock at the door of her office, and in walked a woman named Mrs. Schwartz, who said, I've been sent to tell you not to resign. Mrs. Schwartz was a former patient. What is a former patient when you were hospice? Okay? It was an apparition. And she said to Mrs. Schwartz, can you sign your name for me? Yes, and she did. Okay, this was in the Chicago Tribune, and so this editor said to me, go find out if this is true, if she's crazy. So even the story of how I got there is insane. It's insane. I had never been to a workshop in my life. This would be my very first workshop. I didn't know how to find her. I knew everything about this was crazy. So I ended up, I was in graduate school. I was on my way to a class. I thought I was at Catholic Theological Union, CTU, but it wasn't. I'd gotten off at someplace else. I walked into the elevator. There are two women, this big, tiny little things, talking to each other, saying that they'd just gotten back from an Elizabeth Kubler-Ross workshop. I looked at them, I grabbed one of them. I turned her around and I said, where, how, who? She looks up at me and she said, well, here's the number. In Appleton, Wisconsin. She should have smacked me. I got off the elevator. I didn't even know where I was. I said, where am I? She said, the library at the University of Chicago. I said, no, you should be at CTU where you're not. And I walked down. Anyway, I call up. This woman named Alice says, oh no, there's too big of a waiting line. And I thought, well, I have to get into this workshop. 1 week later, she calls back, there's room. So I drive up to Appleton, Wisconsin, and I walk in. Everything was so strange. I'd never been to a workshop. Okay. One of Elizabeth's practices was to get everybody in a circle, 70 people. Everybody introduces themselves. Now, I'm going there in disguise. So I'm not about to participate in any of this stuff at all. Oh, jeez. And everybody's talking about their wounds, and I'm thinking, are you crazy? Exposing yourself? Like, what are you, nuts? And then what she would do is she would have these people come up front into the center. She had a mattress and a hose, and they would beat this hose and scream their pain. And I was like, who does this? Who is so exposing of themselves? Jesus, Mary and Joseph. And then as the days went by, my eyeballs were like this, because I'd never seen people publicly expose themselves. And I'd never heard stories, actually heard direct stories of people who had been so tormented. because honestly, I did not come from a family like that. And so here's this one person, and she comes up and she says, and she starts weeping deep from her DNA. And she said, I starved my child deliberately because I was starved. And the pain in her was visceral. I can still see it. I can still feel it. And she said, and I thought, who would harm their own child? And she said, I needed her to know the pain I had, which makes it impossible for me to love her as much as I love her. To love her as much as I love her. I wanted her to know how much pain I have first, because it shattered my ability to love. And that's what she needs to know about me. Do you understand what she was saying to her? So in order for her to get to a place of love, she had to hurt this child. And it was a perverse act of love for her to say, I love you so much, but in order to even get that I can't even express it, I'm so damaged, I have to give you some of the pain I have. Now, I got that. And I thought, oh my God, you poor thing. You poor thing. Now that was suffering, deeper than I'd ever seen in my life. And I understood a level of abuse that I never saw. I could never have understood, ever. And from that point on, when people say, I've been so abused, I hold in my heart the mother that hurt them. And I think to myself, I hope to God you get to a place where you get that it wasn't coming from an appetite to break you in half. It was never coming from that place. And that somehow, the journey of forgiveness is all about getting to a place of seeing that, putting that miraculous piece together. Okay? So when I ask you to look at what you're holding on to that you think is justified because you were hurt by someone and it should never have happened, I am going to ask you to somehow include opening the door, the lens, to consider, why would this person, what happened to them? What happened to them?